Hi guys, welcome to another FPL video. Welcome back to the channel. The season has started. How exciting. It doesn't seem like we've had to wait all that long though, funnily enough. Obviously we had the Euros to tide us over and the season has started already. What I'm going to talk about in this video is I've identified 6 midfielders who I think could be of interest over the next coming weeks. Now, I'm not saying that these are players that you should be looking to jump on now. In fact, what I would say in relation to that, in terms of your own teams, if you don't have any injury concerns and there are no problems with players who didn't play at the weekend, who you expected to play, which caused you a problem for your team, if you don't have any of those issues, you don't really need to start really thinking about making too many transfers at this stage. We've had only one game week. Now, you know, You've had weeks and weeks to prepare a team. The team you've picked it for a reason. You don't really need to start thinking about dismantling it just yet. So I would strongly advise to carry the transfer over this week if you can into game week 3. Then you've got 2 free transfers, and you're in a good position then to assess what's going on. Don't make any rash decisions. Be patient with your team. However, as stated, there are some midfielders who I made a note of after the first set of games, and I've penciled them in as players that I think could be of interest over the next few weeks. So I'm going to go through those players. Firstly, let's just very briefly look at my own team. I'm not going to talk about it for too long because I think sometimes it can be a little boring for viewers just listening to somebody talk about their own team. But very quickly, got 97 points, very happy with that. Great first week. Just go through the players. Nothing for Sanchez, nothing for Shaw. Alexander-Arnold, clean sheet. 6 for Ayling, and I'll go back to Ayling in a minute. Greenwood scored, very happy with that. Obviously Fernandes hat-trick, ridiculous. Gundogan 2, Salah obviously again delivers on the first day of the season. Nothing for Tony, and a really nice 13 from Antonio. Now just the points I've got from Ayling, he actually auto subbed in, and actually for me that's the most pleasing thing that's come out of the first week for me, because it's things like that make the difference, rather than getting a good score from a player who half the game owns. And the story behind Ayling, funnily enough, is about half an hour before the deadline, I had Ben White in my team. And I was just never really 100% sure about him, because I just kind of looked at my squad and I thought, well, I'm not going to use him really at all for the first 3 weeks. I didn't have him in my game week 1 team, and the next 2 fixtures were tough, so I just wasn't really convinced about him. So I stuck Ayling in, and Ayling scored and came auto subbed in for me because Veltman didn't play, and also my Watford defender, Serialata or whatever, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. He was in the predicted starting lineup, but for whatever reason didn't play, didn't get subbed on, thankfully. So it was a really nice bit of luck to get those points from Ayling. So very pleased with that. I did want to roll my transfer over. That was always going to be the plan. But looking at my team, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that now, because already I've got issues that I need to address. Veltman, he didn't play because he was self-isolating, so he may be back for the next game. I don't know why the Watford lad didn't play. And I've also now got an issue with Gundogan. Now, what to do with him? It's a bit awkward really, because the news I've heard on him is his injury isn't serious, and it's only going to keep him out for a matter of days rather than weeks. However, the article I read also said that the Norwich game may come too soon. So that's really annoying, because what do I do? Do I risk him not playing? Because then I'm going to have to use a really bad sub if even I've got anyone who plays, and I don't want to. I really need to kind of consolidate that good first game week and really press on. I kind of don't really want to be missing key players and not having anyone decent to replace them. So annoyingly, I might have to look at moving him on this week. It's just so frustrating because he got that injury literally right at the end of the game. It was the last few minutes of injury time. He was running down near the byline, and just a defender sort of pushed him over and he landed awkwardly on his shoulder. Really annoying. That's the kind of one bad thing that's come out of the game week. But yeah, so I am going to be potentially in the market for a replacement midfielder. So let's get right into it. So let's start with the first player. Right, Thomas Soucek. Right. So last season, there was a time in the season when he was a must own. He was really cheap. He was getting goals, and I remember that people were having him on his bench, missing his points because he's on the bench. And the general consensus was if you had him, then you needed to just start him because otherwise you just miss his points. Now, admittedly, he did dry up a little bit towards the end of last season. So I'd say probably the last third of the season he didn't really do a lot. But the way he started this season, I just wonder if he's going to be amongst the goals again. So let's just have a look at his stats. So this is from the first game. Expected goals 0.69, which was actually third out of all the midfielders. So he obviously scored one, and he almost got a second goal, because the first goal he was literally millimetres away from getting a touch on that Cresswell shot, and I actually thought it was his goal when it went in, but obviously he just didn't get a foot on it, so he could have scored two. 3 shots in the box, 3 penalty area touches. The man just has a habit of being in the right place at the right time. He's always a threat from set pieces. He's just a really strange player because his role in the team is actually to be a defensive midfielder, but he's always in the box, he's always getting on the end of things. And yeah, I just wonder if he could be amongst the goals again at the start of this season. And he's still only 6 million, which is still pretty cheap. Looking at West Ham's fixtures, they're not bad. Leicester at home next, and then they've got Crystal Palace at home, Southampton away, and then Man United at home. So a decent set of fixtures there. I think he could definitely be somebody that could be on my radar in a week or two, or even now if I opt to sell Gundogan and bring in another midfielder. Right, so next guy is Steven Bergwijn. Now, he has never been an option FPL-wise previously. He's one of those players that when he does play, he looks quite lively, looks a bit of a threat, but he never really plays regularly, and when he does play, he tends to get subbed off quite early. But I just wonder now, obviously with Kane seemingly now not in the picture, that's obviously freed up an attacking spot, and obviously Son has directly replaced Kane, which has then freed up Son's place. Bergwijn was in the team at the weekend, and he looked good. He had a good game. He almost scored. I think he should have scored actually. He did get an assist, and I just wonder if he might get a run in the team. Obviously new manager as well. So his stats for that game. Expected goals 0.57. That was 7th out of all of the midfielders, so pretty decent. I'm looking forward at the fixtures. It's got Wolves away next, then Watford at home, Crystal Palace away, Chelsea at home. Again, not bad fixtures at all there. In fact, they're pretty good. So I think he could be a nice little option. Only 6 million, not expensive. You could also potentially look at Lucas Moura as well. He's only 6.5. And what this also does, if for those who, for whatever reason, don't really want Son in their team, at least this does give you some Spurs cover as well. So he is one to keep an eye on. I think I certainly wouldn't be jumping on him now. I would like to see him start the next 2 or 3 and see how he gets on. He was subbed off on 76 minutes, I think, against City, but that's not too bad. So yeah, I think he's one to keep an eye on for sure. Next up is Raphinha. Now he is in a lot of people's teams already, but one of the reasons why some weren't particularly keen on him, including myself, was Leeds' fixtures weren't very good at all. But actually, now they've got the Man United fixture out of the way, their fixtures don't actually look too bad now. Obviously, Everton at home. I don't know why that's been given a fixture difficulty rating of 4. It's a bit strange. For me, that should be a 3. So Everton at home is not a difficult fixture as far as I'm concerned. Not the easiest, but it's a decent fixture for me. Burnley away, then Liverpool at home, not great, and then Newcastle away. Fixtures aren't bad, and he is good value at 6.5. Expected goals for the last match against City, 0.27, that was 13th. Expected assists, 0.11, and for those who saw the game, he should have scored. He missed a glorious chance near the end of the game, but hit the shot wide. Now, the problem with him sometimes is, last season his stats are always really good, but he just seems to under-deliver for what he promises. I think he only got one double-figure score last season, and there were signs in that first match of again perhaps him under-delivering, because he should have scored that chance. But he is definitely an option for those who haven't got him yet. 6.5. Fixtures are better now. They've got that Man United game out of the way. Next up is Benrahma. Now, there was a lot of talk about him in the Twitter communities, particularly amongst the top FPL guys. Mark Southerns, I know he's got him, and they seem to be sort of singing his praises because he's had a good season, and a good pre-season. Maybe Moyes trusts him now. But for me, I just kind of thought, I've not got him because I wasn't really convinced, because he's never been an FPL option previously. He's never been a regular starter. When he does start, he gets subbed off early. Now, why would things be different just because he's had a good pre-season? However, on the evidence of the first game, perhaps those guys were right, and he could be a really good pick. So certainly someone that I am now looking at. Expected goals for that match, 0.44, which was 11th in the list of midfielders. 2 shots in the box, 6 penalty area touches. Now, the only thing I will say about him, for those managers who like to be more cautious and who like to kind of avoid potential pitfalls, I would be mindful of the fact that Antonio is a huge part of that West Ham attack. When he's playing and he's in form, as we saw at the weekend, there's such a good attacking team, but it's mainly because of him. When he doesn't play, they struggle. Now, Antonio is very injury prone. There's no reason to suggest that he won't be injured again. In fact, it's probably a matter of time. He's always been injured regularly in the past, so why would that be different now? So if you've got Antonio already and Benrahma, then Antonio gets injured, you've then potentially got a problem with 2 players, because West Ham's attack becomes far less potent. The other thing to bear in mind as well is West Ham have European football this year. so there's going to be perhaps a bit more rotation, more scope for players to get injured, etc. But at the moment I am definitely looking at him. He is a really good option at only 6 million. Again, we've already covered the fixtures when I talked about Soucek. They're decent fixtures next 4, so yeah, definitely a good option to keep an eye on. So this is a player that's who caught my eye just looking at the expected goals stats from the first game. This guy was first out of all the midfielders. He's only 5 million. Now, let's not get too excited. It's the first game, but I do think these stats are quite interesting. Now, he could be an option. So for those who went with a 3-5-2 formation, and I've got a cheap third striker who doesn't play, like in my case, you've got an option there of perhaps downgrading one of your midfielders to him to free up some money to actually get a decent playing third striker, and then use Norgard as a very good first sub, certainly better than your third striker at the moment if you've got a 4.5 striker who's never going to play. So yeah, I put him in just because I think he's obviously very cheap. Only one game so far, so yeah, I'm not going to get too carried away. But I just thought, I was just looking at the expected goal stats, and it caught my eye that he was top of that list, and he's only 5 million. He actually scored as well, obviously. Shots in the box 2 and 2 penalty area touches, so one to keep an eye on for sure. And finally, it's this guy, Adama Traore. He is just such an electric, exciting player to watch. I don't know how many people watched the Leicester Wolves game, but he had a really good game. He should have scored. He was put through in the first half, and his pace just tore past the defender, clean through on goal, and he just put it wide. He should have scored. It was a bad miss, to be fair, and I guess this is the problem with him. For all his pace and exciting play, sometimes the end product isn't there. However, I think that he could be a good option, particularly as Wolves now have Jimenez back fit and playing again. A couple of seasons ago, when Jimenez played regularly with Traore had probably his best season, got a lot of points. So I just wonder if he could have a good season this year. Only 6 million. His expected goals for the first game was 0.81, so that was second. So really high up that list. As I say, he should have scored. I think he had another chance as well, but I think he had a really good game. He looked a threat. 4 shots in the box, 11 penalty area touches as well. So yeah, he certainly could be somebody to keep an eye on. 0.08 expected assists. So there's just a few players that, I mean, there's many more players who I could have talked about. Sarr of Watford. I've obviously already mentioned Lucas Moura, but I just thought there's a few here that I've talked about that perhaps people wouldn't necessarily consider as being options. So yeah, so I hope you found that useful, guys. So I'm gonna sign off the video there. Leave a comment in the comments box if you let me know what you think. If you agreed with some of my some of the players I talked about, do you think that these are players that you might want to look at? And if you like the video, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe. It helps me to build the channel. So yeah, so I'm going to sign off for now, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers, guys.